Welcome to a gripping tale of betrayal, heartbreak, and resilience that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Ethan's life seemed picture perfect: a loving wife, a beautiful daughter, and a loyal best friend. But everything comes crashing down when he uncovers a devastating secret: his wife Samantha's infidelity with none other than his closest friend. What begins as a personal betrayal quickly spirals into a dark web of deceit, exposing a sinister network that threatens not just Ethan's happiness, but his family's safety. As Ethan unravels the lies, he must battle heartbreak, fight for his daughter's future, and face unimaginable challenges. With Samantha seeking redemption and his best friend's shocking betrayal cutting deep, Ethan's journey is a roller coaster of emotions, trust, and survival. This is a story of uncovering the truth, standing tall in the face of manipulation, and proving the power of resilience. Don't miss a single moment of this jaw-dropping tale. Like, share, and subscribe to join us on this unforgettable journey. It's 2017, a quiet suburban neighborhood just outside Chicago. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, kids ride their bikes until dusk, and the sound of backyard barbecues fills the summer air. Ethan, 35 years old, is the kind of guy people admire. He's hardworking, loyal, and has a smile that can light up a room. He lives with his wife Samantha and their 8-year-old daughter Lily in a charming colonial-style home. It's picture perfect, or so it seems. Ethan's the type of guy who believes in doing things the right way. He's been working as a software engineer for over a decade, steadily climbing the corporate ladder. His co-workers admire his integrity, his friends call him dependable, and to his daughter Lily, he's a superhero who can fix anything from broken toys to bad days. Samantha, 33, is equally admired. She's the PTA mom who always volunteers to bake cupcakes for school events. Her Instagram is filled with snapshots of family vacations, perfectly curated dinners, and inspirational quotes about love and gratitude. To the outside world, they're the definition of relationship goals. It's a crisp fall morning, and the streets are lined with golden leaves. Ethan sits at the breakfast table sipping coffee and helping Lily with her math homework. Samantha is busy at the kitchen counter, her phone buzzing with notifications. She glances at the screen and smiles, a fleeting, almost mischievous smile that Ethan doesn't notice. "Don't forget about date night," Ethan says, looking up from Lily's worksheet. His voice carries that soft, hopeful tone of someone clinging to a routine. Samantha looks over her shoulder, her smile forced but polite. "Of course, Ethan. I'm looking forward to it," she replies, but her eyes flicker back to her phone. Ethan doesn't push further. He's been sensing a distance in their relationship for months, but every time he brings it up, Samantha assures him that it's just stress. Between managing the house and being Lily's go-to parent, Samantha always seems overwhelmed. Ethan chalks it up to life getting in the way, never imagining there might be something more. That evening, Samantha dresses up for their date night, a flowy red dress and a pair of heels Ethan hasn't seen in years. She looks stunning, but there's something about her demeanor that feels off. Ethan brushes it aside, convincing himself that he's overthinking. At the restaurant, they sit across from each other, the dim lighting casting shadows that seem to deepen the space between them. Ethan tries to make conversation, asking about her day, sharing a funny story from work, but Samantha's responses are clipped. She spends more time glancing at her phone than looking at him. "Everything okay?" Ethan asks finally, his brow furrowed. Samantha looks up, startled. "What? Oh yeah, sorry. Just PTA stuff," she says, slipping her phone into her purse. "You know how it is." But Ethan doesn't know how it is, and for the first time, he wonders if he ever truly did. Over the next few weeks, Ethan notices more of the little things. Samantha is always on her phone, texting or smiling at messages she doesn't share. She starts going out more, book clubs, girls' nights, yoga retreats. At first, Ethan supports it, thinking she deserves some time for herself, but then he starts noticing inconsistencies. One Friday, Samantha comes home late from a supposed book club meeting. Her hair is tousled, and there's a faint hint of cologne on her clothes, one that doesn't belong to Ethan. When he asks about it, she laughs it off, saying, "Relax, Ethan, you're imagining things." But Ethan isn't laughing, and deep down, he knows something is wrong. Enter Ryan, Samantha's old friend from college. Ryan first comes into the picture during one of Samantha's yoga retreats, or so she claims. He's charming, fit, and, as Samantha puts it, just a really great listener. At first, Ethan doesn't think much of it. After all, everyone's allowed to have friends, right? But when Ryan starts appearing in more conversations and more of Samantha's social media posts, Ethan begins to feel uneasy. One night, he sees a selfie of Samantha and Ryan at a cafe. Their faces close enough to suggest more than friendship. The caption reads, "Catching up with this amazing soul, use friendship goals." Ethan stares at the photo, a knot forming in his stomach. He wants to confront her, but a voice in his head stops him. What if he's wrong? What if he's just being paranoid? He doesn't want to be the jealous husband who jumps to conclusions. The final straw comes on a rainy Tuesday evening. Ethan comes home early from work, eager to surprise Samantha and Lily with their favorite takeout. The house is quiet when he arrives, which is unusual. He calls out, "I'm home," but there's no response. Setting the bags on the kitchen counter, he notices Samantha's phone buzzing on the table. He knows he shouldn't, but curiosity and suspicion gets the better of him. He picks it up and sees a message preview. "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing. Ryan." Ethan feels like the ground has been ripped out from under him. His hands tremble as he places the phone back down. He doesn't need to read more. The truth is staring him in the face. When Samantha walks in moments later, drenched from the rain, Ethan doesn't say a word. He simply looks at her, his expression a mix of hurt and disbelief. "What's wrong?" she asks, feigning innocence. Ethan shakes his head, his voice barely above a whisper. "You know what's wrong." The conversation that follows is explosive. Samantha denies everything at first, accusing Ethan of invading her privacy, but as he presses, showing her the message, her defenses crumble. She admits to meeting Ryan but insists it was just emotional, as if that makes it any less painful. Ethan feels his world collapsing. The woman he loved, the life they built together. It all feels like a lie. But even in the midst of his heartbreak, a small part of him clings to hope. Can this be fixed? Can they rebuild what's been broken? As the rain continues to pour outside, Ethan sits alone in the living room, his thoughts racing. Samantha has gone upstairs, leaving him to grapple with the weight of her confession. He picks up a photo from the mantel, a picture of their family at the beach last summer. They all look so happy, so carefree. But now, Ethan can't help but wonder, was it all an illusion? Last time, we left Ethan sitting alone in the living room, staring at a photo of his family. His world, once so carefully built, had come crashing down after discovering Samantha's betrayal. If you thought things were intense before, hold on to your seats because this is where the story really starts to heat up. And hey, before we dive in, let me know in the comments, what would you do if you found yourself in Ethan's shoes? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next part of this gripping tale. Now, let's jump back in. The morning after Samantha's confession, the house feels colder, quieter, like the life has been sucked out of it. Ethan wakes up on the couch, his neck stiff and his heart heavy. Upstairs, Samantha gets Lily ready for school. her voice unusually soft as she tries to act like everything is normal, but Ethan knows nothing is normal anymore. As he drives Lily to school, Ethan forces a smile, trying to keep his emotions in check, but his daughter is perceptive, even at 8 years old. "Daddy, are you okay?" she asks, her voice small. Ethan glances at her in the rearview mirror, his heart aching. "I'm okay, sweetheart," he lies. "Don't worry about me." But Lily's eyes linger on him, filled with a concern that makes Ethan realize just how much is at stake. Whatever happens between him and Samantha, he can't let it destroy Lily's sense of security. That evening, Ethan and Samantha finally sit down to talk. Samantha's voice trembles as she tries to explain herself. "I never meant to hurt you," she says, tears streaming down her face. I felt so alone, Ethan. You were always working, and Ryan, he listened to me. He made me feel special." Ethan's jaw tightens. "So, you were lonely, and instead of talking to me, you decided to find someone else. How does that make sense, Samantha?" She doesn't have an answer. Instead, she buries her face in her hands, sobbing. Ethan feels a pang of guilt. After all, he had been working long hours, trying to provide for their family. But does that excuse what she did? The conversation ends in a stalemate, with no resolution in sight. Samantha retreats to the bedroom, and Ethan finds himself back on the couch, staring at the ceiling and wondering where they go from here. Over the next few weeks, the atmosphere in the house grows increasingly tense. Ethan tries to focus on his work, but his thoughts are consumed by Samantha's betrayal. He starts coming home later, avoiding Samantha as much as possible. Meanwhile, Samantha throws herself into being the perfect mom, as if overcompensating for her mistakes. One evening, Ethan returns home to find Samantha cooking dinner, a rare occurrence these days. She greets him with a forced smile. "I thought we could have a family dinner," she says, her tone hopeful. Ethan hesitates but agrees, for Lily's sake. As they sit around the table, the conversation is stilted. Lily chatters about her day, oblivious to the tension between her parents. Ethan notices Samantha stealing glances at him, her eyes pleading for forgiveness. But every time he looks at her, all he can see is Ryan's name flashing on her phone screen. One Saturday morning, Ethan takes Lily to soccer practice while Samantha stays home. As they return, Ethan notices a car parked in front of their house, a sleek black sedan he doesn't recognize. His stomach knots as he approaches the driveway. Inside, Samantha is sitting on the couch with Ryan. Their conversation halts the moment Ethan walks in. Samantha jumps up, her face pale. "Ethan, this is Ryan," she says quickly, as if introducing him will somehow make the situation less infuriating. Ryan stands, extending a hand. "Nice to meet you, Ethan." Ethan ignores the gesture, his jaw clenched. "What's he doing here?" he asks Samantha, his voice icy. "I thought it was time you two met," Samantha replies, her tone defensive. "Ryan just wanted to apologize." "Apologize?" Ethan cuts her off, his voice rising. "You thought bringing him into our house, into Lily's house, was a good idea?" Ryan steps forward, his expression earnest. "Ethan, I know I messed up. I just wanted to make things right." Ethan glares at him, his fists clenched at his sides. "You don't get to make things right. Not here, not ever." The tension is palpable as Ethan storms out of the house, slamming the door behind him. Outside, he leans against his car, his chest heaving with anger. The audacity of Samantha and Ryan leaves him reeling. That night, Ethan makes a decision. He can't keep living like this. Trapped in a cycle of betrayal and resentment, he pulls out his laptop and starts researching divorce attorneys. As much as it breaks his heart, he knows it's the only way forward. The next day, he schedules a consultation with a lawyer named Claire, who comes highly recommended. Claire is sharp, empathetic, and doesn't mince words. "Ethan, I won't sugarcoat this," she says during their meeting. Divorce is messy, especially when kids are involved, but with the evidence you've given me, you have a strong case. Ethan nods, his resolve hardening. He hands Claire copies of text messages, receipts, and even photos he's managed to gather. It's painful to relive these moments, but he knows it's necessary. As the days turn into weeks, Ethan begins to change. The once passive, easygoing man starts to find his voice. He spends more time with Lily, taking her to the park and helping her with school projects. His bond with her deepens, giving him a renewed sense of purpose. Meanwhile, Samantha grows increasingly desperate. She tries to win Ethan back with grand gestures, cooking elaborate meals, planning family outings. But Ethan sees through her efforts. He knows she's not doing it out of love but out of fear of losing control. One evening, Samantha confronts him. "You're really going through with this, aren't you?" she asks, her voice trembling. Ethan looks at her, his expression calm but resolute. "I am," he says. "Not just for me, but for Lily. She deserves a home where she feels safe and loved, not one filled with lies." Samantha's face crumples, and for the first time, Ethan feels a flicker of sympathy, but it's not enough to change his mind. As the divorce proceedings loom, Ethan prepares for the inevitable confrontation. He documents everything, every conversation, every financial record, every suspicious interaction. With Claire's guidance, he builds a case that leaves no room for doubt. At the same time, he starts to lean on his friends for support. One night, his best friend Marcus comes over with a six-pack of beer and a listening ear. "Man, I don't know how you're holding it together," Marcus says, shaking his head. "If it were me, I'd have lost it by now." Ethan smiles faintly. "I guess I don't have a choice. Lily needs me to be strong." Marcus claps him on the shoulder. "Well, for what it's worth, you're doing better than most people would. You'll get through this." And for the first time in a long while, Ethan believes it. The day of the first court hearing arrives, and Ethan stands outside the courthouse, his heart pounding. Samantha walks up moments later, her expression a mix of defiance and regret. "This doesn't have to be ugly, Ethan," she says, her voice pleading. Ethan looks at her, his resolve unwavering. "It doesn't have to be, but that's up to you." As they step into the courtroom, Ethan takes a deep breath. This is it. The moment he's been preparing for whatever happens next, he knows one thing for certain. He's not the same man he was when this all began. Where we left off, Ethan was stepping into the courthouse, ready to face Samantha for the first time since deciding to end their marriage. The tension is high, emotions are raw, and Ethan is about to navigate the most intense moments of his journey. Buckle up. This is where the story takes a turn you don't want to miss. And hey, before we jump in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying the series. Your support helps keep these stories coming. Now, let's get back to Ethan's journey. The courtroom buzzes with quiet murmurs as Ethan sits at his table, Claire by his side across the room. Samantha looks uneasy, her lawyer whispering something in her ear. Ethan takes a deep breath, steadying himself as the judge enters. Claire opens the proceedings with precision, presenting the evidence Ethan painstakingly gathered. The texts, the photos, the receipts. It's all laid bare. Samantha's face flushes with embarrassment as her indiscretions are exposed, and the judge's expression grows increasingly stern. But the most damning piece of evidence comes in the form of security footage, a clip showing Ryan leaving the house late at night while Ethan was out of town. The courtroom falls silent as the video plays, the weight of the betrayal sinking in for everyone present. When it's Samantha's turn to speak, her voice trembles. She tries to paint herself as a victim, claiming she felt neglected and unloved. "I made a mistake," she says, tears streaming down her face. "But I never stopped loving Ethan." Ethan remains silent, his jaw clenched. He knows better than to let her words sway him. He's heard it all before, and he's not here for her excuses. He's here for the truth. Just when it seems like the hearing couldn't get more intense, Samantha's lawyer drops a bombshell. Samantha is seeking full custody of Lily. Ethan's heart sinks as the words hit him like a freight train. She believes it's in the child's best interest to stay with her primary caregiver, the lawyer argues, casting Ethan as an absentee father too focused on his career to be present for his daughter. Ethan's fists clench under the table, but Claire steps in before he can react. "Your Honor," she says firmly, "we have ample evidence to refute these claims. Ethan has been a dedicated father, as demonstrated by his involvement in Lily's life and his commitment to her well-being." The judge nods, but the tension in the room is palpable. Ethan realizes that this isn't just a fight for his dignity, it's a fight for his daughter. That night, Ethan lies awake, replaying the day's events in his mind. The thought of losing Lily is unbearable, and he knows he has to do everything in his power to prove he's the best parent for her. He starts documenting every moment they spend together, from school drop-offs to bedtime stories. He gathers character references from friends, teachers, and neighbors, all of whom vouch for his devotion to Lily. Slowly but surely, he builds a case that even Samantha's manipulations can't dismantle. Meanwhile, Samantha grows increasingly desperate. Her once confident facade begins to crack as the reality of the situation sets in. She starts sending Ethan late-night messages, alternating between apologies and threats. One text reads, "I'm sorry for everything. Can't we just work this out?" Another says, "You'll regret taking this to court. I'll make sure you never see Lily again." Ethan shows the messages to Claire, who advises him to stay calm and let the legal process play out. But inside, he's seething. The woman he once loved is now someone he barely recognizes. The boiling tension finally erupts one evening when Samantha shows up at Ethan's house unannounced. She's visibly upset, her eyes red and her words slurred from too much wine. "Why are you doing this to me?" she cries, standing in the doorway. "We had a life together. Ethan a family." Ethan steps outside, closing the door behind him to shield Lily from the scene. "You did this to us, Samantha," he says, his voice firm. "I gave you everything, and you threw it away." "I made a mistake," she sobs. "Isn't that what marriage is about, forgiving each other?" Ethan shakes his head, his expression resolute. "Marriage is about trust, and once that's gone, there's nothing left." The confrontation ends with Samantha storming off, her anger masking the pain of realizing she's losing control. Ethan watches her drive away, his heart heavy, but his resolve unshaken. The next court hearing is a turning point in the case. Claire presents Ethan's meticulous documentation, highlighting his active role in Lily's life. Teachers testify to his involvement in parent-teacher conferences. Neighbors recount his dedication to Lily's happiness, and even Lily's pediatrician describes him as a loving and attentive father. When it's Samantha's turn, her lawyer struggles to counter the evidence. The judge listens intently, her expression unreadable as the arguments unfold. But the moment that changes everything comes when Lily herself is brought in to testify. The judge speaks to her gently, asking about her relationship with each parent. Lily's voice is small but steady as she describes the love and security she feels with her dad. "I love Mommy too," she says, her eyes welling up, "but Daddy makes me feel safe." The courtroom falls silent as the weight of her words sinks in. Ethan feels tears sting his eyes, but he quickly blinks them away. This is why he's fighting, for Lily's safety, her happiness, her future. As the hearing draws to a close, the judge delivers her ruling. Ethan is granted primary custody of Lily, with Samantha receiving supervised visitation rights. The decision is based on the overwhelming evidence of Ethan's dedication and Samantha's questionable behavior. Samantha's face crumples as the verdict is read. She tries to argue, her voice rising in desperation, but the judge silences her with a firm gavel strike. The case is over. Walking out of the courthouse, Ethan feels a mix of emotions: relief, exhaustion, and a lingering sadness for what was lost. But as Lily runs to him, throwing her arms around his waist, he knows he made the right choice. "I love you, Daddy," she whispers, and in that moment, everything feels worth it. Later that evening, as Ethan tucks Lily into bed, he reflects on how far he's come, the battles he's fought, the strength he's discovered. It's all led to this moment. But just as he starts to feel a sense of closure, his phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. The message reads, "You think it's over, but it's not." Ryan. Ethan stares at the screen, his jaw tightening. Just when he thought the storm had passed, a new threat emerges. What does Ryan want, and how far is he willing to go? Where we last left off, Ethan had just secured primary custody of Lily, a hard-fought victory in the courtroom, but the text from an unknown number, "You think it's over, but it's not." Ryan sent chills down his spine. If you thought this story was reaching its conclusion, think again. Things are about to take a dark and dramatic turn. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an update to this series. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this unfolds. Ethan stares at his phone, the words on the screen blurring as a mix of anger and anxiety courses through him. Ryan had been out of the picture, or so he thought, but this cryptic message suggests otherwise. He doesn't respond, instead forwarding the message to Claire, his lawyer. Within minutes, her reply comes through. "This could be harassment. Let's document it. Don't engage." Ethan sets the phone down, his jaw tight. He's come too far to let Ryan derail his progress, but deep down, he knows this isn't the end of Ryan's interference. Over the next few days, Ethan notices subtle but unsettling signs that Ryan is watching him. A black sedan idles near his house for hours, one evening before speeding off when Ethan approaches. At Lily's soccer game, Ethan spots a figure in the distance that looks eerily like Ryan, though he disappears before Ethan can confirm. When he tells Claire, she advises him to file a police report. "We can't ignore this," she says. "Even if it doesn't lead to anything, it establishes a pattern." Ethan hesitates. He doesn't want to escalate things unnecessarily, but he can't shake the feeling that Ryan is trying to provoke him. Meanwhile, Samantha begins to insert herself back into Ethan's life, using Lily as a pretext. She shows up unannounced to drop off forgotten items from her visitation days or to discuss Lily's schedule. Each time she lingers a little too long, her eyes scanning the house as if searching for something or someone. During one visit, Ethan confronts her. "What are you really doing here, Samantha?" he asks, his tone sharp. She fidgets with the strap of her purse. I don't want things to be so hostile between us for Lily's sake." Ethan narrows his eyes. "Is this about Lily, or is this about you?" She doesn't answer, but her silence speaks volumes. Ethan realizes that Samantha is grappling with the reality of her new life, a life without him, and she's struggling to accept it. One night, Ethan returns home from work to find his living room window shattered. His heart races as he rushes inside, his eyes darting around for signs of an intruder. Nothing seems to be missing, but the message is clear. Someone wants to intimidate him. He calls the police, who take a report but offer little reassurance. "Could be kids playing a prank," one officer says with a shrug. But Ethan knows better. This has Ryan's fingerprints all over it. That night, Ethan installs additional security cameras around the house, his paranoia growing with every passing hour. He knows he's being watched, but he doesn't know when or how Ryan will strike next. The confrontation Ethan dreads comes a few days later. He's leaving a coffee shop when Ryan steps out of the shadows, his expression cold and menacing. "Ethan," Ryan says, blocking his path, "we need to talk." Ethan's fists clench, his body tense. "I have nothing to say to you." Ryan smirks. "You might want to hear me out. It's about Samantha." Ethan hesitates, his curiosity piqued. Despite his better judgment, Ryan leans in, his voice low. "She's not who you think she is. There's more to this than you know." Ethan glares at him. "What are you talking about?" Ryan straightens, his smirk widening. "Let's just say Samantha hasn't been entirely honest with either of us. If you want the truth, you know where to find me." Before Ethan can respond, Ryan walks away, leaving him seething with frustration and doubt. What does Ryan know, and can Ethan afford to ignore it? Haunted by Ryan's cryptic words, Ethan decides to dig deeper into Samantha's past. He starts by reviewing old bank statements, searching for anything he might have missed. What he finds shocks him: large, unexplained withdrawals that coincide with the time she claimed to be attending yoga retreats. Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan contacts a private investigator. Within days, the investigator uncovers evidence that Samantha had been siphoning money into a secret account, an account she shared with Ryan. Ethan feels a wave of betrayal unlike anything he's experienced before. It wasn't just an affair. It was a calculated plan to manipulate him and secure financial leverage. The realization leaves him reeling. Armed with the evidence, Ethan confronts Samantha during one of her visits. He throws the bank statements and photos onto the table, his voice trembling with anger. "Explain this," he demands. Samantha's face pales as she glances at the documents. "Ethan, I can explain—" "Don't," he interrupts, his voice rising. "Don't lie to me again. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been using me?" Tears stream down her face, but Ethan doesn't waver. "You and Ryan didn't just betray me, you tried to ruin me. And for what, money control?" Samantha collapses into a chair, sobbing. "I didn't know what else to do," she cries. "Ryan convinced me it was the only way. I was scared, Ethan." "Scared of what?" he demands. "Losing your cushy lifestyle. Newsflash, Samantha. You already lost everything." Her silence is deafening, and for the first time Ethan sees her for who she truly is. A woman consumed by her own insecurities, willing to destroy others to protect herself. Ethan hands the new evidence to Claire, who assures him that it strengthens his case, but the discovery also reignites his determination to confront Ryan once and for all. He's done playing defense. It's time to take control of the situation. One evening, Ethan arranges to meet Ryan at a neutral location, a park on the edge of town. He doesn't tell anyone where he's going, fearing that Samantha might tip Ryan off. When Ryan arrives, his smirk is gone, replaced by a wary expression. "I didn't think you'd actually show," he says. Ethan steps forward, his eyes blazing with intensity. "You're going to leave me and my family alone, do you hear me?" Ryan chuckles, but it's a hollow sound. "You don't scare me, Ethan." Ethan squares his shoulders, his voice steady. "This isn't about scaring you, it's about ending this. I have everything I need to destroy you. Your texts, your photos, the bank records. You're done." For the first time, Ryan's composure falters. He takes a step back, his confidence waning. "You wouldn't." "Try me," Ethan replies, his tone deadly. "Because if you come near me or Lily again, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who you are." As Ryan slinks away, Ethan feels a sense of relief, but it's short-lived. His phone buzzes with a notification, and when he checks it, his blood runs cold. A video file from an anonymous number. He presses play, his heart pounding. The footage shows Samantha and Ryan, their voices muffled but their intent clear. They're plotting something. Ethan's hands tremble as he realizes the fight isn't over. Whatever they're planning, it's bigger than he thought. and it's coming for him. Previously, Ethan confronted Ryan and delivered a powerful ultimatum: leave him and his family alone, or face the consequences. But just when it seemed like Ethan had gained the upper hand, a mysterious video from an anonymous number threatened to unravel everything. Buckle up, because this part of the story is where everything comes to a head. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can follow every twist and turn of Ethan's journey. Let's dive in. Ethan's hands tremble as he replays the video. It's grainy and poorly lit, but the voices are unmistakable. Samantha and Ryan. They're seated in what looks like a hotel room, their conversation laced with tension. "We need to handle this," Ryan says, his tone sharp. He's not backing down. Samantha looks nervous, her fingers twisting in her lap. "What if he goes public? What if he ruins everything?" Ryan leans in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "He won't get the chance, trust me." The video ends abruptly, leaving Ethan with more questions than answers. What are they planning, and how far are they willing to go? The next morning, Ethan forwards the video to Claire. Her response is swift and decisive. "This is a serious threat. We need to involve the authorities immediately." Ethan agrees, filing a police report and handing over all the evidence he's gathered. But the wheels of justice turn slowly, and Ethan knows he can't rely on the system alone to protect himself and Lily. He installs additional security measures at home, including motion detectors and reinforced locks, and arranges for a neighbor to watch Lily whenever he's not around. Meanwhile, he starts digging into Ryan's background, hoping to find something that will give him the upper hand. What he discovers is both shocking and illuminating. Ryan has a history of financial fraud and shady dealings, including a stint in jail for embezzlement. It's clear that Ryan is no stranger to crossing lines. As the days pass, Samantha's behavior becomes increasingly erratic. She shows up at Ethan's house unannounced, demanding to see Lily even on days when she doesn't have visitation rights. Her once polished appearance is now disheveled, her desperation plain for anyone to see. During one visit, she corners Ethan in the driveway. "You don't understand," she pleads, her voice trembling. "Ryan's dangerous. He'll do anything to win." Ethan glares at her, his patience wearing thin. "And you brought him into our lives. You chose him, Samantha." Tears streak down her face, but Ethan doesn't soften. He's done letting her manipulate him with her emotions. "If you want to fix this," he says coldly, "then start by telling me everything, no more lies." Samantha hesitates, torn between loyalty to Ryan and fear for her own safety. Finally, she breaks down. "He's been blackmailing me," she confesses. "He has photos, messages I sent him. He said he'd ruin me if I didn't help him." Ethan feels a pang of vindication. Samantha's betrayal wasn't just an affair. It was part of a larger web of manipulation. But there's no time to dwell on her motives. They need to focus on stopping Ryan before it's too late. Samantha agrees to cooperate, providing Ethan with a trove of emails and text messages that expose Ryan's plans. It's a risky move, one that could backfire if Ryan discovers her betrayal, but it's the only way forward. With Samantha's evidence in hand, Ethan and Claire piece together a damning case against Ryan. But just as they prepare to take it to the authorities, disaster strikes. Ethan returns home one evening to find his front door ajar. His heart pounds as he steps inside, his eyes scanning the room for signs of an intruder. The house has been ransacked, drawers pulled open, furniture overturned, and papers scattered across the floor. But the most chilling discovery comes when he enters Lily's room. Her favorite stuffed animal lies on the bed, its head torn off. Ethan's blood runs cold. This isn't just a break-in, it's a message. Fueled by a mix of fear and fury, Ethan decides it's time to confront Ryan directly. He arranges to meet him at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, a location Ryan had mentioned in one of the messages Samantha provided. Ethan arrives first, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. He doesn't have to wait long. Ryan strides in moments later, his smirk intact, but his eyes betraying a flicker of unease. "You've been busy," Ryan says, his tone mocking. "I'll give you credit. You've got guts." Ethan doesn't flinch. "This ends tonight, Ryan. I have everything I need to take you down." Ryan laughs, the sound hollow. "You think you're so righteous, don't you? But you're just like me, willing to do whatever it takes to win." Ethan steps closer, his voice low and steady. "The difference is, I'm doing this to protect my family. What's your excuse?" Ryan's smirk falters, and for a moment Ethan thinks he's gotten through to him. But then Ryan pulls out a knife, the blade glinting in the dim light. "You should have stayed out of this, Ethan," he says, his voice menacing. What follows is a tense and chaotic struggle. Ethan manages to disarm Ryan, but not before taking a shallow cut to his arm. Fueled by adrenaline, he pins Ryan to the ground, his voice shaking with rage. "This is over," Ethan growls. "You're done hurting my family." Ryan sneers up at him, his bravado finally breaking. "You think this will fix everything? You're just as broken as the rest of us." Before Ethan can respond, the sound of sirens fills the air. Claire had tipped off the police, ensuring they'd arrive in time to arrest Ryan. Officers storm the warehouse, pulling Ryan away in handcuffs as he screams obscenities. Back at home, Ethan sits in the living room, his arm bandaged and his body aching. Samantha arrives to check on him, her expression a mix of guilt and gratitude. "I'm sorry," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "For everything." Ethan looks at her, his exhaustion evident. "It's going to take a long time to fix what's been broken," he replies. "But for Lily's sake, we have to try." It's not a reconciliation, not yet, but it's a step toward healing, one that Ethan hopes will lead to a better future for their daughter. As Ethan tucks Lily into bed that night, his phone buzzes with a new notification. It's an email from an unknown sender with the subject line, "You thought it was over." Ethan's heart sinks as he opens the message. Attached is a single image, a photo of his house taken from the street. The fight isn't over yet. Last time, Ethan thought he'd finally neutralized Ryan, only to receive an ominous email with the chilling subject line, "You thought it was over." If you think you've seen the height of this story's intensity, think again. The stakes are higher than ever, and Ethan is about to face his greatest challenge yet. And don't forget, if you're hooked on this story, like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps this series alive. Now, let's jump back into Ethan's battle for justice and peace. Ethan stares at the photo of his house, his pulse quickening. The image is recent, taken that night, judging by the faint glow from his living room window. Someone is watching him. Someone knows exactly where he is. He rushes to check the locks and security cameras, his mind racing. The footage from earlier in the evening shows a car slowing down outside his house, the driver's face obscured by shadows. It's impossible to tell who it is, but Ethan has his suspicions. He calls the police, reporting the threat, but their response is the same. "We'll send a patrol car to keep an eye on the area." It's not enough to ease his fear. The next morning, Samantha shows up unexpectedly, her expression fraught with worry. "I heard about the email," she says, holding up her phone. "Ryan's not acting alone, Ethan. There's someone else involved." Ethan's eyes narrow. "What do you mean?" Samantha hesitates, then confesses. "Ryan mentioned a partner once, someone who's been helping him with the financial schemes and with keeping tabs on us." Ethan's frustration boils over. "Why didn't you tell me this sooner?" "I didn't think it mattered," Samantha cries. "I thought once Ryan was arrested, it would all be over. I didn't know they'd come after you." Ethan takes a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. Do you know who this partner is? Samantha shakes her head. No, but Ryan called him the boss. Whoever he is, he's pulling the strings. Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan teams up with Claire and the private investigator together. They comb through the evidence Samantha provided, looking for clues about Ryan's mysterious partner. They discover a series of encrypted emails on Samantha's old laptop, sent from an address labeled The Architect. The messages are cryptic but suggest a deeper conspiracy. One email reads, "Ensure all loose ends are tied. We can't afford exposure." Ethan's stomach churns as he realizes this isn't just about personal revenge. It's part of a larger scheme. Amid the chaos, Ethan's priority remains Lily's safety. He arranges for her to stay with his sister, Sarah, in another city until the situation is resolved. Saying goodbye to her is one of the hardest things he's ever done. "I'll see you soon, sweetheart," he says, hugging her tightly. "Just remember I love you." Lily nods, her eyes wide with worry. "I love you too, Daddy." As Sarah drives away with Lily, Ethan feels an overwhelming mix of relief and heartbreak. He knows she's safer this way, but the house feels emptier without her. Just when Ethan thinks he's making progress, a new piece of evidence flips the narrative on its head. The private investigator uncovers a bank account linked to The Architect, and the name on the account sends shockwaves through Ethan's world. Marcus, Ethan's best friend. Ethan's mind reels. Marcus had been his rock throughout this ordeal, offering support and advice. How could he be involved? Claire urges caution. "We don't know the full story yet," she says. "It's possible he's being framed." But Ethan can't shake the feeling of betrayal. He decides to confront Marcus directly. Ethan meets Marcus at their usual spot, a quiet bar where they've shared countless conversations over the years. Marcus greets him with a smile, but Ethan can barely contain his anger. "Why don't you tell me about The Architect?" Ethan says, sliding a copy of the bank record across the table. Marcus's smile falters. He glances at the paper, his face pale. "Ethan, I can explain." "Explain what?" Ethan snaps. "That you've been working with Ryan? That you've been watching me, manipulating me?" Marcus's hands shake as he reaches for his drink. "It's not what you think. Ryan approached me months ago, said he needed help with a project. I didn't know it was about you until it was too late." "Too late for what?" Ethan demands, his voice rising. "You could have come to me. You could have told me the truth." "I was scared," Marcus admits. "Ryan threatened me, said he'd ruin me if I didn't cooperate." Ethan stares at him, his heart heavy with disappointment. "You were supposed to be my friend." "I am your friend," Marcus pleads. "I never wanted to hurt you, Ethan. Please, let me help you fix this." Ethan doesn't respond. He gets up and walks away, leaving Marcus alone at the table. With the revelation about Marcus, Ethan realizes he can't trust anyone. He decides to take matters into his own hands, using the information he's gathered to set a trap for the architect. He contacts Marcus, pretending to forgive him, and asks for his help in arranging a meeting with Ryan's partner. Marcus hesitates but agrees, guilt written all over his face. The meeting is set for a remote location, a deserted construction site on the outskirts of town. Ethan alerts the police, ensuring they'll be nearby, ready to intervene. The night of the meeting arrives, and Ethan waits in the shadows, his heart pounding. Marcus arrives first, followed by a black SUV. A tall man steps out, his face obscured by a hood. This must be the architect. The man approaches Marcus, his voice low and threatening. "Is everything in place?" Marcus nods nervously. "Yeah, everything's set." Ethan steps forward, revealing himself. "It's over," he says, his voice steady. "The police are on their way." The architect turns to face him, his hood falling back to reveal a familiar face. Ryan's older brother, Alan. "You've been a thorn in our side, Ethan," Alan sneers, "but you won't stop us." Before Ethan can react, Alan pulls a gun. Chaos erupts. As police sirens wail in the distance, Marcus tackles Alan, and Ethan lunges for the gun, wresting it from his grasp. The police arrive moments later, arresting Alan and Marcus. As Alan is dragged away, he glares at Ethan. "You've won this round, but this isn't over." Back home, Ethan reflects on everything he's endured. Ryan is in jail, Alan is facing charges, and Marcus's betrayal has left a scar that won't heal easily. But for the first time in months, Ethan feels a sense of closure. Lily returns home the following weekend, and her laughter fills the house once more. Ethan knows there's still work to be done, rebuilding trust, healing wounds, but he's ready for the challenge. As Ethan tucks Lily into bed that night, his phone buzzes with another notification. This time, it's a video call from an unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answers. The screen flickers to life, revealing Alan's face from a prison cell. "Miss me?" Alan says with a smirk. The call ends abruptly, leaving Ethan staring at the screen, his heart pounding. The fight might not be over after all. The last time we checked in, Ethan's battle against Ryan and the architect took a shocking turn. Ryan's older brother, Alan, was revealed as the mastermind behind the scheme, and though he's now behind bars, a chilling video call hinted that the danger is far from over. Ethan might have won the battle, but the war is still raging. Before we dive back in, remember to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next twist in Ethan's journey. Let's jump right into the thick of it. Ethan sits in his dimly lit living room, the glow of the phone screen casting eerie shadows on his face. Alan's smirk and the words, "Miss me?" replay in his mind like a broken record. The man is locked up. How is he still pulling strings? Ethan calls Claire immediately. "Alan just contacted me," he says, his voice tight with frustration. Claire's reaction is swift. "That's a clear violation of his custody terms. I'll notify the authorities." "But Ethan, this means Alan still has influence, even from prison. Be on high alert." Ethan nods, though the weight of her words only adds to his growing paranoia. The next day, Ethan gets an unexpected visitor. Detective Ramirez, one of the officers who helped arrest Ryan and Alan. Ramirez is blunt but empathetic. "We've been keeping tabs on Alan," she says. "He's managed to maintain connections on the outside, but we're working to dismantle them." Ethan appreciates her candor, but remains uneasy. "What about my family?" he asks. "Are we safe?" Ramirez meets his gaze. "We're doing everything we can to ensure that, but Alan doesn't give up easily. You need to be prepared." Ethan's resolve hardens. If Alan is planning something, he won't let himself, or Lily, be caught off guard. Over the next few days, strange things start happening. Ethan's car alarm goes off in the middle of the night, but there's no one around. A package arrives at his doorstep with no return address. Inside is a single photo of Lily at her soccer game, taken weeks earlier. Ethan's anger boils over. He calls Ramirez, who sends a team to sweep the property. They find no immediate threats, but the message is clear. Alan's network is still active. Lily senses the tension, her usually cheerful demeanor replaced by quiet unease. "Is everything okay, Daddy?" she asks one evening. Ethan kneels down, holding her hands. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. I promise I'll keep you safe." But even as he says the words, doubt creeps in. Can he really protect her from someone as relentless as Alan? Surprisingly, Samantha steps up in the face of the new threats. She offers to stay with Lily during her visitation days, keeping her close and under watchful eyes. "I know I've made mistakes," she tells Ethan. "But Lily's safety comes first, always." Ethan is hesitant to trust her, but he sees genuine remorse in her actions. She cooperates fully with the police, providing additional information about Ryan and Alan's operations. It's a small step, but it gives Ethan a glimmer of hope that she's trying to make amends. One night, Ethan receives a call from Ramirez. "We've tracked down one of Alan's associates," she says. "He's willing to talk, but only if you're there." Ethan is reluctant but agrees. They meet the associate, a wiry man named Greg, in a secure location. Greg is visibly nervous, his eyes darting around the room. "Alan's not just angry," Greg says, his voice trembling. "He's obsessed. He blames you for ruining his brother's life, for breaking up their operation. He won't stop until he's taken everything from you." Ethan feels a chill run down his spine. What's he planning? Greg hesitates, then leans forward. "He's got a guy on the outside, someone who knows you, knows your routines. Alan calls him his ace in the hole." Ethan's mind races. Who could it be? Another betrayal from someone he trusts. The next day, Ethan reviews his security footage with Ramirez. As they scan through hours of recordings, something catches his eye. Marcus's car parked down the street late at night. Ethan's stomach drops. After everything Marcus said, after begging for forgiveness, he's still involved? Ramirez places a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "We'll bring him in for questioning, but Ethan, this might get messy." Ethan nods, his emotions a whirlwind of anger and betrayal. Marcus was like a brother to him, and now he's been dragged deeper into Alan's web. Police bring Marcus in for questioning, and Ethan is allowed to watch from behind a one-way mirror. Marcus looks disheveled, his usual charm replaced by visible fear. "I didn't have a choice," Marcus says, his voice shaking. "Alan threatened my family. He said if I didn't help, he'd destroy us." "And what exactly did you help him with?" Ramirez presses. Marcus hesitates, then breaks down. "I was supposed to keep tabs on Ethan, report back on his movements, his schedule, but I swear I never wanted to hurt him." Ethan feels a mix of rage and pity as he watches Marcus's betrayal cuts deep, but it's clear he's a pawn in a much larger game. With Marcus's information, Ramirez and her team track down Alan's ace in the hole, a former associate named Victor who's been orchestrating the threats. They plan a sting operation to catch him in the act, using Ethan as bait. The plan is risky, but Ethan agrees. He's tired of living in fear and wants to put an end to Alan's reign of terror once and for all. The sting takes place at a park where Ethan is supposed to meet Victor under the guise of a business deal. Hidden cameras and undercover officers surround the area, ready to move at a moment's notice. Victor arrives, his demeanor cold and calculating. "You've caused a lot of trouble for Alan," he says, his voice dripping with menace. He's not happy. Ethan remains calm, stalling for time as the officers move into position. "Alan doesn't scare me," he says. "And neither do you." Victor smirks, but his confidence shatters as police swarm the area, arresting him before he can react. As he's led away in handcuffs, Victor glares at Ethan. This isn't over. Back at home, Ethan feels a weight lift off his shoulders. Alan's network has been dismantled, his allies arrested, and Lily is safe. For the first time in months, Ethan allows himself to breathe, but the victory is bittersweet. Marcus's betrayal still lingers, and the scars of what he's endured won't fade overnight. Still, Ethan is determined to move forward, stronger and more resilient than ever. As Ethan tucks Lily into bed that night, his phone buzzes with a notification. It's from an unknown number. The message reads, "You won this round, but the game isn't over." Ethan stares at the screen, his jaw tightening. He knows the fight isn't truly over, but this time he's ready for whatever comes next. In the last section, Ethan faced one of his toughest battles yet. With Marcus's betrayal revealed and Alan's network dismantled, he thought he could finally catch his breath. But a cryptic message, "You won this round, but the game isn't over," reminds him that the storm is far from over. The stakes are higher than ever, and Ethan is about to face the final, most dangerous part of his journey. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. so you don't miss the twists and turns ahead. Let's dive back in. Ethan's emotions are in turmoil. On the one hand, he's relieved that Victor, Alan's ace in the hole, is now behind bars. But the betrayal by Marcus, his closest friend, cuts deeper than anything else. Samantha reaches out to check on him, her voice tentative. "I heard about Marcus," she says. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I know how much he meant to you." Ethan's response is curt. "I don't have time to dwell on it. There's still someone out there pulling the strings." Her silence speaks volumes, and for once, Samantha doesn't argue. She knows the battle isn't over. Detective Ramirez calls with an update. "We've traced the latest message to a burner phone," she says. "But there's something else. We found financial records connecting Alan to another player, someone higher up." Ethan's heart sinks. He thought Alan was the mastermind, but it seems there's yet another layer to this tangled web. Ramirez continues. "We're looking into a name, Victor Delgado. He's been flagged in multiple investigations, but has always managed to evade prosecution." The name sends a chill down Ethan's spine. Delgado is known for running an underground network that deals in everything from fraud to intimidation. If he's involved, it means this fight is far from over. Ethan decides to take matters into his own hands. With Ramirez's reluctant approval, he starts digging into Delgado's activities. He discovers that Delgado owns a series of shell companies, one of which recently purchased a warehouse on the outskirts of town. Claire warns him to be careful. "Delgado isn't like Alan," she says. "He's dangerous. You need to let the police handle this." But Ethan can't sit idly by. He knows that if Delgado is behind the threats, he won't stop until he's neutralized. As Ethan delves deeper, the emotional toll begins to weigh on him. His once peaceful life is now a constant cycle of fear and vigilance. Even Lily senses the strain, her usually bright demeanor clouded by worry. One evening, as they sit on the couch watching a movie, she turns to him and asks, "Daddy, are the bad guys gone?" Ethan's throat tightens. "I'm working on it, sweetheart," he says, pulling her into a hug. "I promise I'll keep you safe." Her trust in him is unshakable, and it fuels his determination to see this through. Ethan and Ramirez stake out the warehouse Delgado recently acquired. Over several days, they observe suspicious activity, trucks coming and going at odd hours, men in suits entering and leaving. Ramirez briefs her team on the plan to raid the warehouse, but Ethan insists on being there. "I have a personal stake in this," he says. "I need to see it through." Reluctantly, Ramirez agrees, on the condition that Ethan stays out of harm's way. The raid is scheduled for the following night. The raid begins under the cover of darkness. Police vehicles surround the warehouse, their lights cutting through the night. Ramirez leads the charge, her team moving swiftly to secure the perimeter. Ethan watches from a distance, his heart pounding as the sounds of shouting and gunfire fill the air. He's terrified for Ramirez and her team, but knows this is the only way to bring Delgado down. Minutes later, the police emerge with several suspects in custody. But Delgado isn't among them. Ramirez approaches Ethan, her expression grim. "He wasn't there," she says. "But we found something." She hands him a folder containing documents seized from the warehouse. Among them is a list of names, people Delgado has targeted. Ethan's name is at the top. The documents also include an address for Delgado's hideout. A remote estate on the outskirts of the city. Ramirez prepares her team for another operation, but Delgado seems to anticipate their moves. By the time they arrive, the estate is empty. Ethan feels the frustration mounting. Delgado is always one step ahead, and the clock is ticking. But as the police search the estate, they uncover a clue, a map marked with coordinates leading to an abandoned airstrip. The airstrip is a desolate expanse, its cracked tarmac overgrown with weeds. Ethan arrives with Ramirez and her team. The tension palpable. Delgado's men are waiting, armed and ready for a fight. A firefight ensues, the night erupting into chaos as bullets fly. Ethan stays in the car as instructed, but his heart races as he watches the scene unfold. Amid the chaos, Delgado attempts to flee in a private plane. Ramirez and her team move in, but Ethan sees an opening and acts on instinct. He runs toward the plane, intercepting Delgado before he can board. The two men grapple on the tarmac, the roar of the plane's engines deafening. Delgado sneers at Ethan. "You should have stayed out of this," he growls. Ethan's response is a punch that sends Delgado sprawling. Ramirez's team moves in, arresting Delgado as Ethan steps back, his adrenaline surging. With Delgado in custody, Ethan finally feels a sense of closure. Delgado's network is dismantled, and the threats to his family are neutralized. But the experience has changed him. Samantha approaches him later, her tone soft. "You did it," she says. "You kept Lily safe." Ethan nods, his expression weary but resolute. "I did what I had to do." For the first time in months, he allows himself to exhale, the weight of the ordeal lifting. Just when it seems like the danger has passed, Ethan receives one final message. It's a video file, sent from an anonymous number. The footage shows a shadowy figure sitting in a dimly lit room. "You think it's over," the figure says, their voice distorted. "But the game has just begun." Ethan stares at the screen, his jaw tightening. He knows this isn't the end, but he's ready for whatever comes next. Ethan has faced betrayal, threats, and countless obstacles in his quest to protect his family. With Delgado behind bars and Alan's network dismantled, he finally felt the weight of the ordeal lifting. But a chilling video message from a shadowy figure, "The game has just begun," thrusts him back into uncertainty. If you think this roller coaster has peaked, you're in for a wild ride. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as we push toward the explosive climax of Ethan's story. Let's dive in. Ethan watches the video again, trying to decipher every detail. The figure is cloaked in darkness, their voice distorted, but one detail catches his eye, a tattoo on the figure's wrist, partially visible as they gesture toward the camera. Ethan freezes the frame and zooms in. It's a serpent coiled around a dagger, a symbol he's seen before. He searches his memory until it clicks. Delgado had the same tattoo on his forearm. This isn't just a new threat, it's a continuation of Delgado's influence. He forwards the video to Ramirez, who responds immediately. "We need to talk, come to the station." Ramirez is already waiting when Ethan arrives. She looks tense, her usual composure shaken. "The tattoo is tied to a larger network," she explains. "It's a symbol of allegiance to an underground organization, one we've been investigating for years." Ethan feels a chill run down his spine. "So Delgado was just a cog in the machine?" Ramirez nods. "Exactly. And this video suggests they're not done with you yet." She hands Ethan a file containing information about the organization, known as the Coil. It's a shadowy group involved in everything from extortion to cybercrime, and they don't take kindly to interference. The realization that Ethan is now in the Coil's crosshairs adds a new layer of fear. He doubles down on security, installing additional cameras and alarms around his home. Ramirez assigns a plainclothes officer to keep an eye on the property, but the sense of unease lingers. Lily picks up on her dad's tension. "Daddy, are the bad guys back?" she asks one evening, her voice trembling. Ethan kneels beside her, holding her close. "I won't let anything happen to you," he promises. "You're safe here." But as he says the words, he can't help but feel the weight of their uncertainty. Ethan decides he can't wait for the Coil to make their next move. With Ramirez's help, he digs into the group's operations, focusing on their known associates. One name stands out, Dominic Reyes, a former member who defected years ago and went into hiding. Finding Reyes proves difficult, but Ethan eventually tracks him to a small town several hours away. Reyes is initially reluctant to talk, but when Ethan explains the threats against his family, Reyes softens. "They don't just stop," Reyes warns. "If they've targeted you, it's because they think you're a threat to their operations. The only way out is to hit them where it hurts." "And where's that?" Ethan asks. Reyes hesitates before answering. "Their safe house. It's where they keep their most sensitive files and their biggest secrets." Ramirez and her team locate the safe house in an industrial area on the outskirts of the city. It's heavily guarded, with surveillance cameras and armed men patrolling the perimeter. Breaking in won't be easy, but Reyes provides crucial intel about the layout. Ethan insists on being part of the operation. "This started because of me," he says. "I need to see it through." Ramirez reluctantly agrees, but only if Ethan follows her lead. Together, they plan a coordinated raid, aiming to secure the files and dismantle the Coil's local network. The raid begins under the cover of darkness. Ramirez's team moves swiftly, neutralizing guards and securing the perimeter. Ethan stays close to Ramirez, his heart pounding as they navigate the safe house. Inside, they find a room filled with servers and filing cabinets. Ramirez's tech team gets to work extracting data, while Ethan scans the files for anything related to his family. What he finds shakes him to the core: detailed dossiers on him, Samantha, and Lily. The files include photos, schedules, and even Lily's school information. It's clear that the Coil has been watching them for months. As the team continues their search, an alarm blares, signaling that their presence has been detected. Guards flood the building, and chaos erupts. Ramirez orders Ethan to stay back, but he finds himself cornered by one of the guards, a hulking man with a gun. Ethan reacts instinctively, using a nearby metal pipe to defend himself. The struggle is intense, but Ethan manages to disarm the guard, knocking him unconscious. His hands shake as he realizes how close he came to losing everything. Despite the chaos, the team secures the data and escapes the safe house. Back at the station, Ramirez's tech experts begin analyzing the files, uncovering a treasure trove of information about the Coil's operations. One name appears repeatedly: Lucien Moreau, the group's enigmatic leader. Moreau is known for his ruthlessness and his ability to stay hidden, but the files include a possible location: a private island off the coast. "This could be our chance to end this," Ramirez says, "but it won't be easy." Ethan doesn't hesitate. "Whatever it takes," he says. "I'm in." The operation to apprehend Moreau is the most ambitious yet. Ramirez assembles a team of specialists, including Ethan, to infiltrate the island and bring Moreau to justice. As they prepare for the mission, Ethan reflects on how far he's come. The fear and uncertainty that once paralyzed him have been replaced by a fierce determination to protect his family and end the threat once and for all. The team arrives on the island under the cover of darkness, using inflatable boats to avoid detection. The compound is sprawling, with high walls and armed guards. Ramirez leads the way, her team moving with precision. Inside the compound, they split up to cover more ground. Ethan stays with Ramirez, his senses on high alert. The tension is suffocating as they navigate the maze-like corridors, searching for Moreau. The final confrontation occurs in Moreau's private office, a lavish room filled with priceless art and state-of-the-art technology. Moreau greets them with a chilling smile, his confidence unshaken. "You've come a long way to find me," he says, his tone mocking. "But you're too late." As Ramirez's team moves in to apprehend him, Moreau triggers a hidden alarm. Guards flood the room, and a fierce firefight ensues. Ethan finds himself face to face with Moreau, their struggle a test of wills. In the end, Ethan gains the upper hand, subduing Moreau just as Ramirez's team secures the compound. As Moreau is led away in handcuffs, he smirks at Ethan. "You think this is over?" he says. "You've only scratched the surface." Back on the mainland, Ethan feels a sense of relief, but knows Moreau's words hold a kernel of truth. The fight against the coil may not be over, but for now, his family is safe. He returns home to Lily, who runs into his arms the moment he walks through the door. "I missed you, Daddy," she says, her voice muffled against his chest. "I missed you too, sweetheart," Ethan replies, holding her tightly. "And I promise, I'll always keep you safe." As Ethan tucks Lily into bed, his phone buzzes with a new notification. It's an email with no subject line and a single attachment. A photo of Ethan and Lily, taken that day. Ethan's heart sinks as he realizes the fight is far from over, but this time he's ready for whatever comes next. To be continued. We've reached the final chapter of Ethan's journey, a tale filled with betrayal, danger, and resilience. Ethan's battle against the shadowy organization. The coil came to a head with the capture of their enigmatic leader, Lucien Moreau. But even as the dust settles, a chilling email reminds Ethan that his fight isn't entirely over. As we dive into the conclusion, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more gripping stories like this one. Now let's wrap up Ethan's incredible journey. Ethan wakes up to the sound of birds chirping outside his window, a rare moment of peace after the chaos of the past few months. For the first time in what feels like forever, his home is quiet, but the email from the night before lingers in his mind, a reminder that while Moreau may be in custody, his influence remains. He makes breakfast for Lily, who chatters happily about her plans for the day. Her laughter is a balm to his weary soul, and for a moment he allows himself to bask in the simplicity of the moment. Later that day, Ethan meets with Detective Ramirez to discuss the email. She reassures him that their team is working around the clock to root out the remnants of the coil's network. "You've done more than most people would have in your situation," she says. "But it's time to let us handle the rest." Ethan nods, though a part of him struggles to relinquish control. He's spent so long fighting to protect his family that stepping back feels unnatural. Samantha reaches out to Ethan, asking to meet. They sit across from each other at a cafe, the tension between them palpable. "I know I can't undo what I've done," Samantha begins, her voice trembling. "But I want to make things right, for Lily." Ethan studies her for a moment before responding. "It's going to take time," he says, "but if you're willing to put in the effort, I'm open to rebuilding our co-parenting relationship." Samantha nods, tears glistening in her eyes. It's not a reconciliation of their marriage, but it's a step toward creating a stable environment for their daughter. Ethan also reaches out to Marcus, who is serving a reduced sentence after cooperating with the investigation. Visiting him in prison is difficult, but Ethan knows it's necessary. "I don't know if I can forgive you," Ethan says, his voice steady. "But I needed to see you face to face to understand why you did it." Marcus looks down, his guilt evident. "I was scared, Ethan. But that doesn't excuse what I did. I'll regret it for the rest of my life." Ethan nods, a sense of closure washing over him. "I hope you find a way to make amends, for yourself." As the weeks pass, life slowly returns to normal. Lily thrives in her new routine. Her smile brighter than ever, Ethan takes her on weekend trips to the park, helps her with school projects, and makes a point to be present for every milestone. One evening, as they're baking cookies together, Lily looks up at him and says, "You're my hero, Daddy." Ethan's heart swells. "And you're mine," he replies, pulling her into a hug. With the immediate threats neutralized, Ethan begins to focus on rebuilding his own life. He reconnects with old friends, starts exercising regularly, and even takes up painting, a hobby he abandoned years ago. Each stroke of the brush feels like a step toward healing. Just as Ethan begins to feel a sense of normalcy, he receives a call from Ramirez. "We've intercepted communication from the coil," she says. "They're planning one last move against you." Ethan's pulse quickens. What's their plan? Ramirez hesitates before replying. "They're targeting Lily." The words hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. His mind races, but his resolve hardens. "They're not going to touch her," he says, his voice like steel. Ramirez and her team devise a plan to lure the remaining members of the coil into a trap. Using Ethan and Lily as bait, they set up a fake family outing at a public park, with undercover officers stationed nearby. Ethan's nerves are on edge as he walks through the park with Lily, his eyes scanning for any sign of danger. When a black van pulls up nearby, his heart leaps into his throat. Several men exit the van, their movements deliberate. Ramirez's team springs into action, surrounding the group before they can get close. The takedown is swift and efficient, leaving Ethan and Lily unharmed. As the men are led away in handcuffs, one of them glares at Ethan. "This isn't over," he snarls. Ethan meets his gaze, unflinching. "Yes, it is." With the final remnants of the coil dismantled, Ethan finally feels a sense of peace. He reflects on everything he's endured, the betrayals, the threats, the danger, and realizes just how far he's come. Samantha, too, has changed. She remains committed to co-parenting Lily and begins volunteering at a local shelter, hoping to atone for her past mistakes. Ethan and Lily move forward together, their bond stronger than ever. They laugh, they play, and they dream of a future untainted by the shadows of the past. In the story's final moments, Ethan sits on the porch, watching Lily play in the yard. The sun sets, casting a warm glow over their home, a home that now feels like a sanctuary. As he reflects on his journey, he realizes that the most important lesson he's learned isn't about defeating enemies or uncovering conspiracies. It's about resilience, love, and the unbreakable bond between a father and his daughter. Looking into the camera, Ethan smiles and says, "No matter how dark things get, there's always a way forward. You just have to fight for it." And that's the end of Ethan's incredible journey. A story of betrayal, danger, and redemption, but most importantly, of love and resilience. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more gripping tales. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.